Hello everybody, and welcome back to the range. Tom here, and today we're doing a motorcycle build, a Hot Wheels blast lane. You know, it's been a while since I've done a motorcycle build, so I'm hoping y'all enjoy this because I surely had a blast working on this video and getting it ready for you. So why don't we head on down to the range and let's get started. Now, I had a bunch of these castings just laying around. I think I had about 4 or 5. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the coolest one I got and I'm going to make it into better, I should say. There's a lot of custom made parts on here, a lot of cutting, a lot of off-camera stuff that, I'll explain throughout the video. But I really had fun doing this build. There was only one post to drill out. And, I ended up tapping it later on in the build, later on in the video. Because I wanted to get everything cut the way I wanted it to. Because of the way I was going about it. And, like I said earlier, it's been a long time. I think the last time I did a motorcycle build was my first ever video was a Gaslands motorcycle. But, if you guys are following me on Instagram, you've seen my other motorcycle builds that I've done. But I'd have to say this is probably the best motorcycle I've done. I was really happy with the paint. I was really happy with everything that turned out on it. And I just could not wait to start on this build. Because I wanted to redo the entire front end. I wanted to put a actually working turning front end on it. And a working swing arm. As you see here, I've already prefabbed the swing arm. It's just the hardest part was trying to figure out how I was going to get it to move. Because I really didn't know how I was going to attach it to the actual casting. I just knew I wanted to cut the back parts off, because I was going to make room. Because it ended up, I wanted to make sure it had springs on it, so it had that movement like a swing arm and a soft tail instead of a rigid. And those who don't know the difference between a rigid and a soft tail, a rigid is pretty much a straight frame. There's no shocks or springs or anything that's helping that back end move up and down. A soft tail pretty much has the shocks or air suspension or something like that in the back to, give it a little more cushion for rides. I used to have a couple motorcycles and they were all soft tails. Not one of them was rigid. So, I had 3 motorcycles. And so I kind of know a little bit about motorcycles. Not a lot, but enough to get me by. But, like I said, I was going to redo the front end. So I cut the little pegs off the front. And where the axle goes through and everything else. And what I ended up doing is after I got done filing them, I put them, first of all, I was going to try to figure out how I was going to attach the wiring that I was going to do. I was going to do my twisted wire effect. So I grabbed a pair of my vice grips, punched a hole in there, took, I think my 5/64 bit, drilled a hole, and made the front forks for it. And I made a lot of stuff from scratch, and I already had these twisted wires already done up from a previous build, so I had them on standby, and I think they went perfect with the build. I ended up building the triple tree straight out of styrene. We've drilled the holes, so I had them already set up, and I had it. It's like I said, I know a few things about motorcycles, so I kind of know how they're set up. And I've seen a lot of motorcycle shows like American Chopper and stuff like that. So I wanted this to look pretty, like something you would see. Not one of these castings that are just random. Even though a blast lane, it looks like one of the breakouts, the Harley Davidson breakouts that, because I used to work at a Harley shop. And that's what it kind of reminded me of, was the Harley Davidson breakouts. So what I ended up doing here is I took a piece of square styrene, and I completely took off the handlebar portion of it and everything, and I put a square piece of styrene, kind of filed a tube hole for the gooseneck, and made it to where it held the gooseneck so I could turn the front forks with. I glued it into place. I grabbed a piece so I know it would fit with the way the casting was set up, and the engine could still fit in it. And I wanted it to function, and that was the biggest thing, is I wanted this to be function because it was a challenge. I was going to try to put a Springer front end, but honestly I couldn't figure out how I was going to do it. So that might be on a later on motorcycle build. I might try to do like an old school chopper look or something, with some high up handlebars or something like that. I don't know yet, but I got all these motorcycle castings, so I'm going to try to do a couple more in the future. But back to making the gooseneck, like I said, I just wanted it to where it looked like it was part of the frame, part of the actual casting itself. And once I glued it into place and got the gooseneck glued in, everything else just kind of fell into place after that. So I was really happy with the way everything turned out. After I glued it in, I sanded the sides and smoothed it out. I glued the square styrene in, so I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. And I have the trickle tree portion already made up, as you see here, and it turns perfectly. It really does. It really functions, and I was really happy with that. Because I wanted to make sure I got all that set up before I decided to do more modifications to it. And you'll see what I'm talking about a little later on in the video. But, I made sure that the front forks would fit, they moved, they functioned. The front tires and the front tire and the rear tire both rotate. So, I wanted to make sure that happened before I did any actual modifications. And, it took me a bit to try to mock it up because I couldn't get the forks to stay put, I should say. I tried moving them a certain way. I tried, setting the casting a certain way. And, I knew it was going to work out, but I just kind of wanted to get a feel of what it was going to look like. And overall, I was very impressed with the look of it. I know some of you guys seen on my Instagram, I just kind of showed some previews of it, but that's all I showed. I wasn't going to show you everything on Instagram because I wanted y'all to watch the video and see what I had coming up next. And I've already got another build planned out for my next video. Well, my next two videos. I got the giveaway build for this month. I'm going to announce them next week with my next video. And I'm going to pretty much, probably, I really don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to be building a monster truck from scratch and do a Monster Jam challenge. And I know JDC, Jay over there, he's got the drag racing situation up there, and I don't know why. I just thought about it for a minute. I was like, you know what? I've made monster truck before. Why don't I do like a monster truck challenge? And, but I'm not going to do anything until I kind of talk it over with Jay, because I want to kind of use the same system that he's using, but different. And you'll find out. I don't know when I'm going to do the challenge yet, or if even anybody will want to participate, but I need to get a little more room because I plan on making a diorama to go along with the monster truck challenge from Monster Jam. But you see here, I kind of, for the swing arm, I couldn't figure out how I was going to do it. So what I did was I just kind of took a piece of the wire, drilled 2 holes, twisted the wire up, and just kind of plugged it in the holes. And my goodness, it worked out perfect. You know, the swing arm moved up and down. I had to shorten it a few times, you know, because it just looked like it was stretched way too far back. So I had to kind of modify it a little bit, bring it in closer, and, you know, kind of glad I did, because it gives it a nice little stretched out chopper look. And the hardest part, like I said, the hardest part was just, I guess, just making sure the parts function. Because I've done motorcycles before. I've done, you know, front ends differently. I've done a drag bike, which I did a challenge on. The front end didn't turn out the way I wanted it, but other than that, it was a pretty decent build. And then I had my bagger build that I did, not on video. And then I had one I did a long time ago. It was a while back, but it was like on Instagram and stuff that I posted on my Facebook page. I can't remember, but this is the only one besides my Gasland motorcycles I've done a video for. And, you know, I wanted to challenge myself, because I've never done anything like this, like with the swing arm and a fully functional front end. And, you know, I just wanted to try my luck out to see if I could do it. You know, and luckily enough, it went off perfectly without a hitch. And, you know, I was really happy with it. And, you know, I'm not the best builder out there, but I do my best. I do the best I can with what I got. And I really like doing motorcycle builds, because, like I said, I used to ride motorcycles myself. I've had 3 motorcycles over the past, and I just wanted to do something that I loved to do before. You know, I was riding motorcycles and stuff like that. But, you know, it was, you know, the hardest part was trying to get some springs. Trying to figure out how I was going to put springs on it. And I ended up going an easy route on it. You see me here trying to put the axle in, and, you know, I made it to where it'll function. And, you know, even the tire still turns, and it's not going to be like a free roller, but it'll roll. The tires will move. So you don't have to worry about, you know, it not moving. The only thing is, it kind of sits up higher than I was expecting. I should have angled the front end a little more, kind of gave it a little more rake. But overall, it turned out really well. Everything went together perfectly. You know, it looked good. Everything just lined up like I was hoping it would. You know, I ended up using the handlebars off the stock handlebars, kind of cut them down, smoothed them out, kind of glued them into place, you know. So, you know, I had the handlebars because I didn't really want to try to make any at this time, because I wanted to do that differently. I wanted to do it at a different time. But at first, you know, the handlebars did not want to stick on there, so I had to kind of adjust them a little bit, and, you know, kind of re-glue it sometimes because the glue didn't stay or something. But, you know, I wanted to make sure everything would move and stuff like that before I started working on, you know, the body of the casting. And what I did with the body is, you know, I took some milliput, and you'll see that here in a few minutes, and I molded it around the gas tank. I took some styrene and kind of glued it underneath the rear fender, and molded some milliput over the back of it. Gave it a bigger fender and gave it a bigger gas tank. And right now, I'm just trying to get everything ready for that portion of the build. You know, making sure the handlebars turn, and I ended up having to kind of cut away some of the milliput after it dried a little bit, so when I put the front end on, it actually wouldn't catch on the milliputty and stuff like that. So it would rotate, it would turn, it wouldn't give me any problems. And I let it dry. Once it's dry, it turns out pretty hard. So it was easy. I had some. I'd started off with like some 120 grit sandpaper, and I went to 80, and then I went back to 120 because it was really thick. I kind of laid it on a little too thick, but that's all right. It's better to have too much than too little. But you can always add to. Because if you take too much away, you're pretty much gonna have to add back to it anyway. But I had to kind of clear away some of the milliput from the bottom of it because the engine wouldn't sit up against the actual frame, if it was caked down there. So once I got it cleared up, and once I smoothed it out, and once it dried, it turned out smooth. And you see that I put a little piece of tube styrene on the back part of it with the springs to make it a swing arm, and it functions perfectly. I should have brought it down a little bit more, cut the spring a little bit more, but that's okay. It looks fine the way it is. I wanted to kind of smooth out where the glue kind of dripped on there, and got that out of the way because I wanted this to be a smooth, looking build. I was really having fun with this build. Yeah, I kind of threw some curse words here and there during this entire build, but I had a fun doing it. So what I did first was I took a copper pearl, pearl copper, and I laid down the base coat. And I taped off what I wanted to stay copper, and you see the little decals. I ended up not putting decals. I just said no, it looks better without the decals. And that's one thing I've learned, is not everything looks good with decals. So I'm taping off what I wanted to stay copper. I wanted to throw like some little lines in there, and I didn't do any fancy designs. And then I went over with a Wicked Pearl Red. I loved how this turned out. It didn't look, there was no overspray, so I was really happy about that. Painted where the seat was, black, and it turned out really good. Just remember what we started off with. I'm not big on the purple, how low it sat. Kind of looked like I said one of those breakouts, and it does with the front end. The way with the two headlights are in the front, that's kind of what made me think of the Harley Davidson breakout. But I wanted to do a Caliber 50 Customs twist on this. I wanted my stamp on a nice motorcycle. So why don't we check out the final results? And I'll see you next time at the range.